5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You've bloody won, haven't you?
But that's a different way to approach it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Homer. Hello.
Well, yeah, we've been talking already. Could you tell? Hi, everyone. Let's just boost this up a little bit. Get right in your ear holes. Hi, everybody. How the hell are you all? Yep, today is going to be a chatty chat McChat stream. So, as we've done, we've had several guests on and things like that. So, me and Mr. Simon haven't been able to have our usual kind of catch-up chat, see what's been going on with you guys as well.
Rob, hello.
Chapettes.
TL, nice to see you.
Hello, everyone.
TL had a major storm last time we were.
Yes, you did. People died, which is really shit.
How is everything now, TL? I hope... Rachel, nice to see you. Chatty McChat face. Yeah, how is everything? Is there much damage from the storm? So that would have been 2 weeks ago, wouldn't it? I think
it would have been about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is going to be one of these streams where we're just going to touch on whatever subjects come up, and also sort of see what's going on with you guys. It gives us a nice little chance just to reconnect with you all and see what's going on in everybody's lives.
Lee, hello. Thank you for the like, Lee. Thank you.
So there was actually something on a couple of streams ago that we were going to do as our chat subject, and I think we just got completely derailed like we normally do. But it was actually going to be. I wonder if it might even still be here. Hang on. Let me see. If
Mark,
it pops up.
Hello.
See what this says.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, there it is.
Change.
The subject of change.
Oh.
So, that button wasn't supposed to be pressed. Hey. But yeah, so I wanted to talk about the idea of change and how much can a human being actually change? To what degree? Because this kind of stems from various things, from losing one of our friends recently and talking about sort of basically in the core being of us, how much of that can be changed, manipulated, and how much of that is just almost set in stone, do you think?
I think everyone has a lot of problems with change, but the only thing that's constant is change. Because...
You just fried my motherfucking brain! Hang on, there's got to be a... What have I got? There's got to be a... we haven't done this for a while.
Learning with Pinto.
It's been a while since we had that one.
The only thing that is constant is change. So I think a lot of the times we're going through change and we're not aware of it. So the first, probably fundamental and most obvious one is age. With every single day, our body is changing.
And it feels like it.
Yeah, and collectively over, so when, I don't know if, I think most people have found this when you were younger, when you were at school and stuff like that. The term times seem to take forever, you'd be just, especially like if it was a class that you didn't enjoy, you'd be like watching the clock. When is it near the end of the day? I can get home. And if it was a class that you enjoyed, it would go away. It would sort of go really quickly.
Yeah.
And again, we've spoken about excitement, or as scientists refer it, arousal. The more aroused you are, which actually means we always think of arousal as a sexual thing, but it's
sexy.
That's so scary. Oh god. Hello, Paul.
Hey, Paul. How you doing, dude? By the way, if you... I just massively peaked there. I do apologise. But for those of you who didn't see last week's...
peaked.
I massively
The
peaked.
story of your life.
Yes. Minutely peaked. For those of you who didn't see last week's stream, we had Mr. Danny, Paul's boy, on, and he did a fantastic job. We had such
Was it last week? The 2 weeks was.
Oh, was it 2 weeks ago now? God, that's gone quick. But yeah, he did a fantastic job. You know, he's got that real kind of...
It was a lovely just having him in. And he was adapting musically as we were playing, which was really, really nice.
Yeah, it's really got that kind of jam night where you're put on the spot. You've got to just work on the fly.
Well, you're saying jam night, but I think, for me, a good musician is a musician that listens and that reacts. You know, so when we talk... you don't just go, right, I'm going to say what I'm going to, and while I'm going, and
I try.
we all react when we talk.
Yeah.
And to me, again, this is just me, good music is a musical conversation. Everyone's listening, everyone's talking, reacting, and responding.
And Danny was really good at that.
He was really
so it's a real pleasure to play with him.
Just a real sweet dude to just
Absolutely.
hang out with. So yeah, and nice to meet you as well, Paul. Very, very nice to meet you. So...
we were talking about time, so in lessons that you enjoy,
aroused. We think of aroused as being just sexual, but it basically means the more parts of your brain that... So, the famous fallacy of, we only use 10%
You mentioned
of
the
our
phrase
brains.
arousal and phallus in the same... within the 30 seconds of each
Did I
other.
make a point of it? I'm spewing such nonsense.
The meat of that.
What a veiny idea. The fallacy that there's only 10%, we only use 10% of our brains. At rest, when we're doing nothing, if you're just like sitting in a room staring at the walls, you'd probably use about 10% of your brains, which is just, your thought processes and ticking over. You're thinking to yourself, maybe, or you're not thinking to yourself. And, the part of the brains that are keeping all your internal organs going and ticking over and stuff like that.
Just gone all trippy.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That was worth it. Right, so I obviously was boring you. No. So fear lights up the most parts of your brain, and also when you're aroused, your brain's most active when you're, concentrating, high concentration and stuff like that. So, and that's when time seems to fly, and time drags when you're less active. So that's what they refer to.
Because didn't they
arousal.
test this? They actually tests people's perceptions of times in different emotional states.
Yeah.
And how much time they felt had passed.
So one of the experiments that was done.
You and your pencils, Mark. Go to the Pencil Museum up north in the Lake District.
I was chatting with Mark at the weekend, and he's doing a nice kind of picture of Brian and Michael, which is really nice.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, that's really nice. Mark's lost. He's lost so much weight. He must have really been working at it. But he says he's feeling good about it and stuff. So that's
sweet.
Really good. Yeah, really good.
Well done, buddy.
Yeah. Again, so I wanted to talk. So we're talking about change. One of the experiments they did, they had a group of dancers, and they had them do like a very slow dance, just very kind of what would you say? Quite.
I've just added a tiny
little touch of room in there.
Yeah.
Quite kind of straightforward, simplistic dance. And they got them to do the dance several times and then said, right, how much time do you... obviously, this wasn't like once. They just did... This was done over loads of different groups and again and again and again. How much time do you think's passed? And then they got them to do a very energetic dance.
Okay.
And do that several times.
Yeah.
And then said, right, what's your estimation of the time? And again, that was one way that they tried to, what would you say? Try and to calculate or to work out a way to work this out. And again, the busier or more excited you are, the more aroused you are, the quicker time seems to go, and the slower or more mundane, the more time seems to drag.
Isn't there also something to do with the, for example, when, say, something happens to someone and say time slows? Wasn't there something to do with that they noticed that people were able to perceive a lot more things in those moments?
They did another set of experiments with people with accidents. Obviously, they didn't create accidents, but they would set up like someone coming in and like robbing a store or an accident. They did a lot of consultations with people that had been through accidents or had witnessed crime or stuff like that. And at the point of fear, when so there's certain parts of the brain and some of the more primitive parts of the brain. So your most primitive part of the brain is the hippocampus, which is is right. You've got the spinal column, and you've got the hippocampus is right at the nub of that.
Yeah,
they call that like your crocodile brain or whatever.
I'm going to turn you up a bit because you're quite quiet.
Quite ugly too. Do you have a talent button? And when that's activated, people were actually taking in. So time seemed to slow for them, even though they were so highly aroused. So very often when people say, like, when they're having an accident or something, it seems to last a lot longer than it. But that's because your brain actually starts to take in a massive amount of detail. So when you feel that your life is threatened, you have a burst of adrenaline, and these parts of your brain suddenly come active, and they start taking in all the information, sights, sounds, so all your senses are absorbing. But your brain kind of really takes this into your short-term memory, and a lot of that gets passed to your long-term memory as well.
Okay.
And that's why people can remember sometimes really bizarre details, but other things the brain will dispense of because it doesn't think it's pertinent to your personal safety or whatever the case is. But yeah, and that can feel like a slowing of time. So anyway, getting back to change. So this time's constantly rolling, and our bodies are constantly getting older. We're constantly changing with all those things. Everyone's jobs are changing, especially like at the moment, in the ether, the world, politics is such a boring thing, but it affects everyone so deeply. Day-to-day things with friends and all these things are constantly evolving, changing, and we're constantly adapting. And a large portion of people's depression for certain groups can be associated with that, because there's constant change, and people always hark back to. We tend to the things that scare
When I was young.
The things that scare us, we tend to remember them because our brain's making a note of be aware that thing may.
Oh, thank you, Rob.
Oh, cheers, Rob. Thank you.
Yes, by the way, people, if you wish to like, follow, subscribe, etc., I have got a button for all this shit. Hang on, here we go. Where is it? Not there. It's here. There we go. Ding. Yep. Do the things that the pointy arrow says, and that helps build the stream and promote it to various people and stuff like that.
It did used to ping, didn't it? You de-pinged it.
I didn't realise I had.
Yeah, so I've lost my train of thought now.
Okay, so people's jobs are changing, everything's changing.
So this constant evolving thing, and so you're connected with some people's depression, is that you tend to remember the things that you're fearful. So, for instance, if you were walking through a jungle and you saw a tiger attack someone, your brain would remember that, and as soon as you see the stripes of a tiger or something, you'd go, I associate that with dangerous stuff. But when we look back at a lot of the events of our own life, the things that scared us or were big problems, we might remember those things, but we remember a lot of the good things. So that's where that saying of, seeing things with rose-tinted glasses.
Yeah.
You remember things, and because you kind of remember that something brought you happiness, but when things bring you pain and sadness, you don't necessarily re-feel those. Some people do. Some people really do. I get that when I think of things. I get taken back.
It's trauma responses, isn't it?
Yeah. So I have, and also I have a kind of eidetic memory, so I remember things as I see them. If I remember a conversation, often I say to you, "You were standing there," or
Yeah.
we were at this particular place, and you were standing there, and you said this. And, so I remember it in terms of that. Other people remember it. They can associate it with smells or lights, music, whatever. Music's a big responder in calling back certain images and feelings. And
Smells for me, definitely.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, I straight into the fart department. Here we go. Apart from earlier, by the way, I did a small fart out in the garden and basically partially shat myself. So people are used to this kind of stuff from me. We're all getting to that age, time's creeping on. Maybe the old sphincter and the brown eye isn't quite as tight and focused as it used to be, so kind of it occasionally does a little yawn and goes blip. So just catch it in your bum cheeks, waddle back into the house, clean up.
Rob said he's having trouble on YouTube. You said
YouTube did seem to be doing some funny things, but hopefully it's carrying on.
Yeah, so again, I'm sorry, this is a very long response, and I do
It's
apologise. So again, change. We're constantly responding to these things, and especially with change, so we would have all had this experience. Someone they haven't seen for a long time, you kind of go, oh, and then you notice the differences. But people we see every day, or that we
don't
see
notice
often,
change,
yeah, because everything's just a little increment, and these things change. So some things change massively, of course. Crashes, deaths. They're big events with big changes. But the majority of changes in our lives, they're all really small increments. In the same way as the controls and that will wear out slightly. Same with our bodies. Same with everything. We're constant with change. We just aren't really aware of a lot of those changes because they're such small increments.
But how much do you think? And like, for example, ladies and gentlemen, also please chime in on this. We would appreciate it. Like, obviously, when people have certain character traits, people have certain isms, people have certain responses to things that are really inherent, sort of deep down in their core. How much of that can we change, and how much of that is almost like set in stone? So
I think in the broad strokes, and again, there is a lot of evidence to go along with this. In the broad strokes, people generally don't change much personality-wise. So we have our nature and we have our nurture.
Yeah.
And especially the things in nature. And also as well, as time's going on, we're finding out more and more of our nature is in our DNA, which sounds obvious, but there's certain things. So, for instance...
Hi, Sonia. How you doing?
Hi, Sonia. I haven't seen you in a while. I hope you're good. I can't remember your dog's name.
Which one?
I want to say Crisp, but it's not.
My dog?
No, Sonia's dog.
I was going to say
Alfie. Is it Alfie? I think it's Alfie.
I'd prefer if it was called Crisp. You right, Chris?
No, because there was I can't remember. He's a really famous chef doing fish meals, and he had a similar dog, and it was called Sandwich. Used to call his dog Sandwich. Anyway, what was I saying, dude? I'm losing. I'm so little sleep. I forgot.
You're saying that people inherently don't change because a lot of it's in our DNA.
Oh yeah. So things like addictions, they can actually be. There's a group of genes that if they're switched on in a certain way, and they can be seen through hereditary DNA, that you can have a
more addictive personality.
There'll be something in your personality. Archie,
AKA Crisp.
Alfie, I said. Alfie.
What's it all about?
I'm so sorry, Sonia, I forgot Archie's name.
He's been working too hard and hasn't slept.
I'm just an idiot. So certain things like that. people can have a predisposition to having a fast temper, again, in their DNA. And certain things like that. Some people are more nurturing, some people are. And we tend to be, like someone tends to be more nurturing will pretty much stay as a nurturing person throughout their life. Someone who's a caring soul will generally be caring. There's a thing about psychopaths, they're born, sociopaths, they're made. As we all know, and same with other character traits as well. And then, obviously the big headline over the last few years has been, people being on the scale of autism, ADHD. There's various other traits like that, which will affect someone's personality, and that won't really change as people move. When it comes to making a change in say if you're a snappy or rude person or something like that, then those kinds of things people can work at to.
Sonia says you're not an idiot, Simon.
Oh, I think I am. Take it from an idiot. I'm an idiot.
You're just tired.
Just an idiot. Just a tired idiot. What's TLC? Do you think genetically inherited addiction be controlled to do positive things? I had this conversation with someone just recently, and I really do believe that.
It can be, if you can turn them on to, like I've known people who've, it was one of the things actually, for anyone who was a fan of Van Halen, like Eddie Van Halen, you knew when Eddie was on the straight and narrow, because all of a sudden he'd bulk out and become all studly and buff, and that's because he'd managed to turn his addiction into fitness. Else. Yeah. And I've known a lot of people that they'll go on the fitness thing, and then again, with like any addiction, they can take it too far.
Yeah.
I had a friend of mine, I think she basically was addicted to food, and then she got addicted to the gym. And I saw her at one point, and she'd shrunk down so much, she was literally just bones poking out everywhere. She'd just taken it too far. And again, but that addictive personality was what was running the show.
Yeah.
So
it becomes... and this is where we have this crossover where people talk about autism and stuff, where there's hyperfocus or obsession. And this is a massive debate with psychologists at the moment, because there was a real swathe where people were saying, it's these certain things come under autism. And now there's a lot of psychologists coming forward saying, but is that really comes under autism? Or is obsession just a person who has an obsession about something for whatever reason? Or would you class it under autism, under
is
hyperfocus?
Is it a tick on the spectrum box, kind of?
Yeah, exactly. And there's such a crossover with these things, so it's a massive debate at the moment.
That's an interesting question, because we were talking about... we've talked about autism on this show before.
Also, sorry, just before you move on. TL, what's your opinion? Do you think that addiction can be controlled to do positive things? And do you think someone with who has a propensity towards addiction, if that's in their genetic code, that they can... So generally it would be at times of stress or times of boredom or whatever, where they will turn their attention to something. It will give them a high point, whether it be endorphins or dopamine burst or oxytocin, whatever it is chemically, and then that will cause them to have a real drive to do that thing again and again and again. And there's certain things that are destructive. So some people, drink, drugs, gambling, sex.
Are there many positive addictions?
Well, I would say that. So this is the conversation I was having with someone just recently, TL. My dad was an alcoholic, an abusive alcoholic. And I was aware of that at a very young age. So that started kind of around about the age of 9 or so for me. And when I was about 14 or so, and I was learning about biology and excuse me, and various stuff, and also the Genome Project was kind of in its early stages then, or at the nub of its stage. I was kind of aware that if that was in my dad, there was signs of it apparently, I never knew my extended family, but in other members of the family further up, I didn't want that to be me, and I think that I was kind of aware of that, so I kept myself I was very against drugs and drink and stuff. Not for other people. Other people can do what they please. For me, definitely, I didn't want to get involved in any kind of thing. Also, as well, my morality, I didn't want. But I was aware that I could have a weakness or something where I could end up being like my dad. But I would say I probably have that an obsession when it comes to music.
Yeah.
My whole life, breathing. Music is breathing for me, and I think without that, I think I would just be. Waste. Yeah, I really would,
TL says, can be controlled somewhat, but not completely, to a point of not being so harmful to self and others. Yeah, I mean, I think you can control, but I think if you're talking about...
substituting...
Yeah, are you talking more about controlling it, so to do positive things, so you're just reining in to have more of a productive life without the darker side of your addiction spoiling everything? Or are you talking about substituting the
one addiction like a negative addiction for a positive,
addiction?
Yeah.
It's like I'm addicted to charity work or something.
Yeah.
I'm addicted to running marathons for charity.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not. I'm absolutely not. But
a lot of people have done that, where they've tried to get into fitness and stuff like that, and then exactly like the examples you've just said, that to me is kind of, I mean, my dad used to say, everything in moderation, nothing to excess. I think anything to excess can be destructive.
Yeah.
Pretty much. But everything in moderation can be survivable or has the potential to be good for you or good for the people around you.
Because I wanted to talk to you about the...
Sorry, just before... keep that thought. So just getting back to you, TL, there. So I agree where you're saying it can be controlled somewhat to a point. But I think, again, people with the predisposition to addiction, they're always going to have that temptation, that pull, that nagging thing drawing them towards it. So that's always going to be whoa!
Hello there! Houston, the eagle has landed.
But what are your thoughts when it comes to? I don't even know if that's TL responding.
It's Rachel. It's Rachel. She's dropped a doozy. We'll get onto this in a second.
Right. Whether someone with a negative, what we would deem as a negative addiction, can replace that for a positive addiction, or is that a misnomer? Am I talking rubbish? Because really, anything, so even if it was that you wanted to do charity work and you became obsessed and you did it way too much, would it be to the detriment of your own health and well-being again? So maybe I'm talking rubbish when I say you could change one bad thing for another. Anything in obsession could be bad, maybe.
Yeah, I do think any obsession can lead down to dark, especially if it becomes all-consuming. Yeah. Right, so Rachel said, I've had so much change over the last few years. I'm still trying to get my head around it. I'm now having to navigate the world on a mobility scooter, crutches, as my ability to walk decreases. I'm having to adapt my way of doing things, such as travelling. I went to London last week, and for the first time in my life, I had to book assistance on the train so I could wheel on and off. I've also noticed how people perceive me and has also changed. I get a lot of pity. I also get random strangers asking me about my health conditions. At the other end of the spectrum, I'm invisible. If I'm out on my scooter, people just don't see me. It's a surreal experience. Yeah, people, I know with my dad, when he was... my dad ended up wheelchair bound.
Thank you for that, Rachel.
Yeah. My dad ended up wheelchair bound after his stroke, and the amount of people...
For how long?
He was wheelchair bound for the rest of his life.
Yeah, so how long was that?
Probably must have been 10, 15 years maybe. I'm trying to
Holy crap, I had no idea.
Yeah, so he had a stroke in his early 50s, and I think he died before Carrie. So if I'm 45 now, my 10-year anniversary of Carrie is this year, and he died before that. So 10 years ago would have been about... So I would have been about 35. So yeah, he probably was about kind of 15...
about 10 years ago.
Yeah, about 10 years ago. So he would have lived with his sort of half paralysis and everything for about 15 years. But one of the things that we noticed that people, when he was sat there in his wheelchair, people would do things like wheel him out the way. and literally treat him like an object rather than a person. But they'd also look at him differently as well. They'd sort of see him, as a... It's weird. It's almost him being in a wheelchair had like a negative connotation to it to other people. I don't know whether they looked at him and thought he was, because you're in a wheelchair, that you're mentally deficient but people would sort of look at you differently. And I think, as Rachel said, sort of it's odd how people they see a thing that you're in. It's odd, isn't it? Because you've got people who have invisible illnesses are always talking about how people don't give them sort of
leeway or
recognition. Sort of recognition. But then people who, where they do see that they've got, they treat them almost like substandard.
Because they've made an assumption.
Yeah, human beings. So it's...
That's really interesting, Rachel, what you said there. How does that... It sounds a stupid thing to say, so I apologise for how it sounds. But how does that make you feel, especially if you're saying that you get strangers asking you about your health? Do you see them that they're doing that out of a caring idea? Maybe it's presented badly, or do you feel that they're just being nosy, or does it... how do you take that? How does it make you feel? Do you rue that change, or do you think there are some? I take it from the feeling I get from what you've written there is that you feel that some of your what you knew yourself as has been taken away, and you've lost a lot of that.
But with Rachel, knowing, I know we don't know each other super well, Rachel, but even with all this change you're experiencing, the core part that is you, like the way you approach things, you're very steadfast. You really sort of you won't take things lying down. You're really funny. You're really enjoyable to be around. That kind of core element of you, even though you've got all this change going on around you, that doesn't change. So that's what I kind of mean by about how much can...
But then, see, so what I find interesting with that is where Rachel's saying, so people see the wheelchair before they see her.
Yeah.
And so I'll give you my own example of how I would understand that. When people see me, they see the colour of my skin before they see anything else.
It's a sexy colour.
You'd be surprised how much negativeness it brings.
That's only because they're jealous, because basically when they're your age, they're going to look like a fucking wrinkled old testicle while you're still sitting there smoothly just going,
with my bum eyes. Yeah, so so I'll give you an example. I once went into the post office. I was doing some work abroad, and I went.
We'll come to you, TL, by the way.
Yeah, we will do. Yeah, and I went to get some euros, and I went to the lady at the till. It was a quiet post office. It wasn't loud. I don't think I speak. I don't mumble. I don't speak with any kind of accent or anything. I said, and this was just locally here. I said, could I'd like to buy, just say for instance, 200 quid's worth of euros, please. And she said, what's that? Say that again. And so I repeated it 3 times to her. She said, you want rupees? I went, no, I want euros. I'm going to, I think, where was I going? Spain or something, I can't remember. 4 times she asked me if I wanted rupees, like Indian rupees. So she's just seeing that, and I was like, no, I'm going
How
to Spain.
does that... This is what I don't understand. This is one of the many things in the world that flummoxes me, is the fact that literally if she had closed her eyes, I could guarantee that she would have heard every single word.
Like we've spoken about the McGurk effect before. So your perception...
It's different to the Magoo effect, by the way. That just means you get all squinty.
People's perception changes their understanding of things. So you see this in America with the partisan divide politically, and people see things through a lens, either one way or the other. And I think over the world now, that's becoming more and more where you have this kind of partisan thing. Shall we go back to TL's?
Yeah, so TL said... so look, I too had a drunk father. It seems to be a common thread for a lot of us, unfortunately. I started to drink a lot, but then focused on work, 2 full-time jobs for 37 years. Wow, that's commitment. I made lots of money, but to the detriment of my health and family. So do you feel, TL, that you have an addictive personality, but you just happen to channel it? See, again, so even though you said I started to drink a lot, but then focused on work, so you could say that you did put it into something more productive. But again, then if that went too far,
a large proportion of people that have addictions, their children, that they pass that on.
Yeah.
And very often they'll have either the same or similar addictions. So
I've replaced my dad's alcohol for Pepsi Cherry.
Yeah.
Which might be partly the reason why I nearly shat myself earlier. Too much gas.
Oh my god. Yeah. So
Poopy Michael. That's
also,
what they'll call me.
it will be so. Like for instance, drugs are far, far, far more widely available than they used to be in previous years. So when people want recreational, they want a new high, or they want something to they're bored. They want something to break what they feel is the mundane. They're always trying the thing that will take that barrier, or that will make them in a place where they can escape a lot of the. Again, I think a lot of people, that's how they deal with sadness, depression, boredom, all these, anything that they feel is negative. They're constantly looking for the high point.
The thing is with alcohol,
because we both don't drink. So,
no, but
what do you do when you want a high point? When you
furiously masturbate.
Well, yeah, but some people will. There's sex addiction is
That's
another
true.
addiction. We had Sonia there as well. So.
But with especially with drink. Now, one of the reasons why.
Sonia's.
There's a few. So,
I'm sorry, man.
So we've gone through Rachel's, TL's there. We'll come to yours, Sonia, in just a second. But with people who drink, now, I can only understand this from people I know who've had drinking problems and everything. But a lot of it's so that they can forget their troubles and woes. Because, the demons are basically in the head. They're making them feel like shit.
So that's a really interesting thing, actually, because before, so when they had sobriety and stuff in America and stuff like that, and there was, what was I can't remember what the movement was called.
I've forgotten what it's called.
Yeah.
It's like
a band called.
It's like a dry county, isn't it?
Yeah.
I nearly said apartheid. That's not the right word. Definitely not the right word. TL, what was it called? Where in America where they banned alcohol?
I can't remember.
It's
what
happened
called.
multiple times, hasn't it, in American history?
But so again, because there was quite a religious movement there, and also I think we're as a society we're maybe less into organised religion as previous. It was really believed that was, they used to call it the demon drink. You let the demon in. And so, in other words, what would happen was drink would lower your inhibitions, and there's demons and bad spirits around, and that would allow them to take over your body to do bad
Prohibition.
things.
Thank you, Rachel.
But the actual movement was called something else. I can't remember, because it was mainly women. That was the movement. There's a rock band called it. I cannot remember what it's called. So,
what, you mean the suffragette?
No.
No, it wasn't the suffragette thing.
It was like the Thresher movement or something. I can't remember what it was. It wasn't the Thresher. That's gonna. And about like 12 o'clock tonight, I'll go,
Mike.
Yeah. So and there was very much that kind of belief that so certain things would. Again, if you were like let your inhibitions down, or you let your weakness down, or you didn't, go to have a religious background, or it would let these demons in, and the demons, what they were after was. So again, the idea is that as people, we can touch, feel, taste, and all the rest of it. Demons, they can't. They can just be around. So they want to be able to get into your body, so they can. Do sex, and they can do sex on things, and have bad substances and all the rest of it. And,
I want to do sex on things.
Yeah. So, and that was very much a belief of it, which I think is really interesting.
That is interesting.
So
For anyone out there, any of you, because most people or most adults drink to some degree.
I think that's the norm, isn't it?
Yeah, it is the norm. So
It's very rarely people are
yeah,
teetotal.
what is, for you guys, we're all quite honest with each other. No one is here to judge. If you feel you can share, would you let us know why you drink? Because that's really interesting to someone who doesn't.
Have you never asked someone about that? I always ask about that and smoking. And drugs.
Smoking is smoking. Drugs is a funny one as well. But for whatever your vice is, what do you get from it, and why do you do it? Be really, really interested to know.
The most common response I have is that people say, "Oh, it takes the edge off. It makes you relax," and the general feeling is just it's that thing of letting your kind of frustrations.
I can kind of go.
Yeah, exactly.
When I have these things.
Yeah. So
I mean, to be honest, I do have an addiction to this stuff, and it's a really interesting quote that someone said, that you know when you have an addiction when you are looking forward to the next one of them, or you're planning when, like, you go to bed and you're like, I can have one of those in the morning, or I can have one, and it's when you're thinking ahead to when that thing comes, and if you can't have it, you're like, damn.
It's the frustration, because you could be thinking ahead to, when am I next going out for a car drive, or you're eating a bag of crisps, or when I'm going to take the next crisp. So I think there's the basic thing is there, but there's a few more elements to it. It's where there's that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your chat line number was?
01787.
0891 50 50 50. For those of you who remember back in the day.
Right, let's get on to Sonia's one.
Okay, so Sonia said, last September I fractured a bone in my foot and borrowed a mobility scooter to get around Tesco's to shop. People were so different, some friendly, some annoyed at my driving skills, others pity. It was an eye-opener for me. Yeah, you become a thing, don't you, rather than a person?
Again, though, with all those things, what you're seeing is, this is how I would see it anyway. What you're seeing is people's presumptions. So, right, first of all, people say, "Oh, I never judge. We all judge. That's how we evolve.
We all judge all the time.
We all judge all the time, and the reason for that is our brains are constantly. When you're awake, your frontal lobe is constantly questioning everything. And the reason it does that is, as soon as I see this thing, I see, right, is that going to kill me? No. Right, what does it do? Right, and then we categorize it and go, all right, that's in the safe category. And then we break that category down into, right, is it an animal? No. Is it a light bulb?
Animal,
No.
vegetable, mineral.
It's electric. Oh, right. Is it to do with music? Oh, I like music. Right, I'll put that along with that thing. So that's how we do it. And when people see a mobility scooter or whatever, there's a load of assumptions. When people see the colour of my skin, there's a load of assumptions that come with it, because that's how we're all wired. We're so poorly designed, and that's why we do all these rubbish things, because that's just how our brains work. Our brain is going, right, is that going to kill me? That's always the first question. And then it goes, right, no, it's not. Right. Is it good or is it bad? Is it going to help me, or is it going to bring me happiness? No. Is it going to make me sad? Is it going to poke my eyes out? What's it going to do? Is it going to, and that's what, so when people see those, they've already made all those assumptions by either what they've been told, they've been read, and very often as well, as people's attention span's getting worse, as people are so plugged into things like Facebook or social media or certain parts of the media. I mean, so many people get their news from things like Facebook, where it's not checked, or it's not, and like so many people are unaware of
Reddit. Fucking hell.
Yeah, people are so
Yes, Paul, I'm talking about you. If you're watching, you, Mr. Curran, Captain Reddit over there, also known as Captain Tangent. Paul will literally fill up a chat in our WhatsApp chat group of Reddit post.
Oh, really?
And you'll be just chatting about something else, and all of a sudden, oh my God, over in Nigeria, there was a blah, 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 blah. And where did that come? That came out of left field. But I do love you, sir. You're very handsome and you have a sexy voice.
Mikey, hello. Hello.
Hello, Mikey.
Yeah, so I've lost my train of thought. But anyway, something happened, someone fell over, and then that was the wind blew. Right, so TL says, I drank at one time because I would not give a shot. I would not give a...
Shit.
Oh, shit. I was thinking like a shot drink, an escape from abusive parents. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
yeah,
and also as well, especially like you're saying there, TL, when you have that history of a lot of bad memories, a lot of pain, a lot of anguish, those things do haunt you because we draw, again, your brain's constantly going, all right, well, someone said that word. Oh, I remember when my dad said that and then he hit me or whatever like that. And you draw that has that, well, now the overused phrase of triggering, but it brings back a thought, it brings back a memory, and it puts you in that mind, it puts you in that moment. And of course then you think, I don't like that feeling, I don't like it, I want to escape it, what do I do? And if the last time you drank and it got the feeling away, you're going to go, oh, well, I want to do that.
It's habit forming, isn't it?
Yeah, and anything we do 7 to 11 times, our body then starts to assimilate, and then we keep doing that.
Right, so we've had a lot of input.
Thank you so much for talking to us.
Yeah, exactly. People being very honest as well.
And also, as well, sorry, just where Sonia was saying there, I actually think as horrible that experience must have been, it's also quite good. With all those things, I think they're great life lessons, because until you were sitting in that chair, you may have thought about it and whatever else, which is going back to something to, do you remember Leanne was saying?
Yes, we were talking about how can you really understand what it is.
We have frame of reference for stuff, but that enriches our frame of reference. You go, oh, I've actually been in that situation and stuff. So yeah.
So Rachel said earlier, the questions people ask, I think, are mostly pure curiosity. I don't physically show any actual need for my aids, so they're confused as to why I use mobility aids, because I'm not injured or elderly. Where are we? Elderly. They're not used to an invisible disability. As for how I am myself, Mike is right. I'm a stubborn bugger. You're a lovely stubborn bugger. I don't let things get me down. This is just another challenge that I will overcome. Again, because I think that's part of your core, almost your core programming. You've got a kind of resilience in there, whilst other people I've known who literally anything happens in their life and they just collapse.
The buckle, yeah.
Yeah, they just buckle.
Again, so getting back to the start of the conversation you were saying, is where, you know, it's deep in Rachel, it's endemic in Rachel, that she has this resilience, that she has this knowing of self, and also she's quite strong in that she can battle that. Other people would be like, I'm really hurt by that, and it would affect them. That may want, you know, they may want to drink or drug or whatever.
Yeah, and I know there's some people who struggle with a lot of these kind of
Please
things.
Don't ever say sorry, Rachel. Thank you so much for joining in.
No,
anything you
Rachel
say
said sorry for taking ages to type. There is no need to apologise for anything on here. Well,
I'm so sorry I interrupted you.
So sorry.
Go on.
No, but that's interesting, because obviously there's people who struggle with various things, and sometimes with certain therapies, certain, you know, sort of approaches to things, they can find ways to overcome, you know, new ways to reprogram the brain to kind of see things through different filters, different lenses. But again, I think unless you've got that, if there's I do wonder with certain human beings, and this is, say, unfortunately with our friend Ed, who we lost recently, if there's in certain people, if it's instilled in a very young age, a very dark, destructive element, self-destructive element.
There was a paper that came. Sorry, there was a paper that came out about 2 years ago, and it looked at it was a very large study again, and based on the Genome Project and stuff that's been found, and it does seem that certain people have a predisposition to depression and suicide.
Yeah.
And especially with suicide, this was looking at the DNA of a load of suicide cases, and they all had a certain gene set turned on.
That's terrifying, but really interesting at the same time.
So, the paper said that some people are pre-wired to it, and so.
Was it?
I was going to say something from my own experience of a certain person I know, a few people I know. There's an onset of that kind of deep depression from very, very early on, and they struggle with that throughout their life.
Yeah. Is there any? Was there any mention of it being more common in one sex than the other? Obviously, suicide rates are much higher in men.
Yeah, but there's also again, it's a nature and nurture thing.
Yeah.
It from the paper, from what I remember, they didn't mention anything like that. It then went on to say about, so it was talking about all the different enzyme sets and the DNA markers and stuff like that. And there's lots of real deep biological information in this particular paper. And then it went on to talk about how socioeconomic and nurture then are there the kind of extra millstones piled on top of that. And it does need to be this kind of perfect storm of things. But the actual essential of the deep depression can be hardwired into certain people.
Oh, that's so terrifying, isn't it? But that's what I suppose you can get some people who...
Temperance
movement.
Homer, thank you so much. Temperance movement. That's
so we're going to catch up on all the chat because you guys have put a lot of good stuff in here. But yeah, that's really worrying, isn't it? That you could have, literally, you're genetically wired to carry that kind of burden throughout life. That's just horrible.
But sorry, going back to what Homer said there, the temperance movement. So they really believed that's why the temperance movement was very connected to what they called
temperance
evangelists, I think, in America, and it was a woman's movement that was excuse me, that felt that all the ills of society were down to alcohol, and that was allowing demons to come in, because it was mainly men that were displaying all the alcoholism and all the problems.
Go out in Colchester now on a Friday night. It's not like that anymore. It's pretty even, Stevens. Right, Tia. Okay, so we got a lot of people responded regarding the drinking comment and various vices. TL said, I drank at one time because I would not give a shit when I was drunk and escaped from abusive parents. Yep. Mikey joined the conversation. Lee said, I drink socially because it helps me talk to people without anxiety, obviously. Obviously too much, and it becomes a detriment when talking to people.
That's really interesting as well, what Lee's saying there, that for a lot of people, it's this dropping of inhibitions. So where he's feeling uncomfortable or self-conscious or maybe he's finding the social cues and whatever. When that drops, a lot of that pressure that he feels goes, and he can feel like people often say, I can let more of myself out.
But that's interesting because usually and I know this with Carrie. She said something quite interesting recently. That she said that when she feels that when she's talking to people. That what she has to say, she won't mind me saying this, we've talked about all this kind of stuff on the stream before, that what she has to say isn't anything of import or value. And I said, but what you're doing is, a lot of the time when we just chat generally, a lot of it isn't of important value. When you're just having general chit-chat, it's usually just catching up, a bit of this, a bit of that. There's nothing groundbreaking or anything in your general conversation, but the fact that you feel that what you say must be that, you're setting an unnecessary standard for yourself. I think so. Therefore, with a lot of people's anxieties, is because we have set ourselves a bar that we feel that we must adhere to, otherwise we're not delivering what we should do. But the fact is that bar is a complete fabrication. There is no...
Is it though?
I think to most, what people, like for example, how you approach, I had a friend of mine, and when he used to go out on dates with women.
You got a friend?
No, I haven't. The imaginary friend I've got, this Teddy I've got indoors that I talk to. This salmon that I bought from the fishmongers called Jeffrey that just sits on my bed. Hello. Yeah, he's slowly decomposing, but I just can't bear to let him go.
When he was talking to
a friend of mine, and he said that whenever he would go out on a date, he would put so much. It's like, this is the one, this is the woman, this is the one I'm going to spend. I'm like, dude, Back off a touch here. I said, first of all, when you go out with this person, you don't really know how you're going to get on. The chemistry might not be there. She might find that but immediately he's set himself
A massive bar.
that.
So how do you see that?
I see that as a complete sort of a, almost like you're setting, if you've got the world operates in a certain way, you've put in a hurdle that's overcomplicated the natural kind of movement of human interaction.
Okay, so that's the mechanism. Why?
I think it's because it's almost like setting yourself I think it comes down to what you believe is how things should happen. So you've set yourself kind of a precedent of this is my storyboard. You're trying to write your own story rather than just letting the story unfold and dealing with it at the time. So, no, it needs to be like this. It must be this, then it must be this, and it must be this. It's like, but that's not how life works.
So going back to, say, Carrie's comment.
Yeah.
And I would say there's a feeling of inadequacy with that comment. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel I should be saying this. It should be these big, monstrous things when I'm just kind of saying this. So why, again, motivation in people is the thing that's interesting to me. Why is there that feeling?
Again, probably a feeling of inadequacy, a feeling of, with Carrie, it's struggling in certain social situations, not knowing what you should say, what you can say, saying things. And
so where does that expectation come from?
Probably negative, for Carrie, probably negative experiences. So
she was criticised a lot growing up, wasn't she, by her parents? And stuff.
Exactly. So again, there's a nature.
Sorry, I'm saying that.
It's me and Carrie have talked about these kind of things. We've done multiple streams where we've talked about this kind of stuff. So it's she's very open to talking about this kind of thing. So yeah, due to those negative experiences, and therefore, it's almost like, I suppose, for those of you who've ever gone through bullying at school, where someone will pick on you for doing a certain thing. You will try and avoid...
Then become hypersensitive about
that specific thing. So you'll try and avoid that situation as much as possible. Do everything you can to avoid
those bad feelings coming again.
Yes, and that's a similar situation. So, but regarding my friend today who set these boundaries for like...
so with him, why does he have this motivation? What motivates him to having the thought that it needs to be, this has to be the one?
It almost sounds like
as opposed to, well, this is a test. Let's suck and see what the result is. Fall.
I think there's multiple things. I think there's an element of, hello, Leanne, how you doing?
Hello.
I think there's the elements of, for example, like a societal ideal that maybe at a certain age you should be in this kind of relationship. You should be.
I think social media has made that a massive
absolutely
more.
Yeah.
Let's catch up with some of these things.
So
we're on to Rob here.
Yeah. So we were talking about why people.
So Lee said that it helps him with anxiety.
Rob said, I used to drink a lot, understatement, purely because it was the culture to be around friends and pubs and clubs. It was just a sociable thing to do. Nowadays I drink because I enjoy the taste of it. It's also quite refreshing, no idea why. But to crack open a cold beer after a hard day is very gratifying.
And also as well, where Rob's saying that, I think a lot of people think like you're saying there, Rob, where that's like a reward. It's like, I've had a hard day and my reward is that feeling of like, it's a bit like people say, like women say, I want to get my bra off when they get home.
Just want to let everything.
When you're at home, you want to be able to just go,
For me, it's the equivalent of when I used to do a lot of like mountain hiking and things like that, and you're sweaty, you're thirsty, and then you come down to the pub, and I'll just have like an ice cold lemonade.
Oh.
And you just drink that, and you just...
I hear you, brother, when you're talking ice-cold lemonade.
Testify! And you just feel it hit, and everything just goes... And you just feel like your body just goes, thank fuck
on
for
a really
that.
hot day, a cold lemonade to me is like nectar.
Yeah,
right?
Sweet nectar of life.
So he said it was quite refreshing, no idea why. But
Yeah.
crack open a cold beer after a day is very gratifying, although I've never liked being drunk. Hate the feeling of being out of control. That's the thing I used to really not understand when I was kind of in my late teens, early 20s, first started. So I started working when I was 16. and because my dad had already retired by then, and I never used to have any of my own money. As soon as all my money used to go to the house, and buying food and paying bills and stuff like that. So I never went out at weekends with friends. But all the people I worked with, they'd be like, "Oh, we went out, got absolutely blasted, blotto," and I could never understand. I would think, "But how is that fun? Like, I can't remember what happened. I can't, and I've got a blackout." How is that fun?
I have a theory. Okay, I think
I think a lot of that is bravado because it was the thing to say.
Yeah, it's the thing to do. All your friends are doing it. You don't want to feel like the one being left out.
But I've known other people, her who cannot be, and she was, when she got depressed or when she was down, it was like, I want to go out and get drunk. I want to get absolutely drunk. And to me, that seems such a...
Oh, thank you, David.
Oh, David. Such a stupid thing. But that's because I don't understand why you would do that.
I think, it
actually wants to get to a point where I lose control.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe,
that to me is self-destructive.
Yeah,
when people want to do that.
I've noticed,
but that's just how I see that.
For example, it's drinking to me, from what I've spoken to, when people go out to drink, it's like going to a fancy dress party. You don't want to be, if you go to a fancy dress party and you're the only person there in fancy dress, that's what some people feel like.
That's your life.
That is my life.
There's not a gig where you're not.
No, that is how I roll. So if you imagine when people go out and
they don't want to be the odd one out, is what you're saying.
Yes, exactly. All their friends are getting drunk, and if they're not, they're drinking.
So that's pretty much what Rob was saying there. Like when
it's a social thing.
A group of lads, they would all drink a lot.
I noticed being sober. I've got drunk once, and I've been sober my whole life pretty much.
Apart from the once.
But when I would go out and see people at the start of a night before everyone had started drinking, there was that sense of awkwardness that we're all just standing in a club. Everyone's kind of like, this is actually a bit shit. So what we'll do, let's get drunk to make it better. Rather than actually
we're not aware that we're just all standing in a room.
No, we're all just standing in a room. It's actually really, there's nothing that's entertaining us here. So let's just get pissed, and then that will make it more fun. Rather than just choosing to do something that they actually enjoy doing. But also there's the element of when people were single and they want to go out on the pool. And I have done that.
Oh, really?
And when I look back at it, it's the most depressing state to be in. Because you just go to this place, right, okay, we're going to go to this place. It was Chicago's in Colchester, so that's, yeah. So we'd go there every Thursday. And if we didn't, it'd be like, oh, but we don't know what clunge we're missing. And you're just like, oh, fucking Nora. And it was just
I've never, ever done anything like that.
No, it was just standing there with your mates, looking around, see if you might be able to get chatting to a girl just in case you pull. And it's, again, everyone's getting...
What kind of age would you have been?
I was in my early 20s.
Oh, right.
So I didn't drink. Yeah. But when I look back
So when you got drunk, what were you drinking?
Ouzo.
What did it say?
It was like a weird, shitty aniseed thing.
Oh, fuck that for Game of Soldiers.
Homer said, if you're the only one dressed up at a fancy dress party, then it's still a fancy dress party. Good man, I like your style.
Right, although I've never liked being drunk. Hate the feeling of being out of control. Sorry, and then we're on to TL here. I stopped drinking...
when I got custody of my son. I was 19.
Oh, well done.
Yeah.
That must have been a hard thing to get back from. The temperance movement in the UK started in the Victorian times as men were getting their wages.
And going straight to the pub.
Yes, of course. Oh, God, yeah.
And then coming home and beating their wives. That's why it was a primary women's movement.
Which is, again, why they said about the demon of drink.
Yeah.
The demon came in. And
Homer said, I should have added because they were drunk. Indeed. Leanne said, hey. Rachel said there was a temperance hotel in Housestead. My dad remembers it still being used in the 50s and 60s.
Oh, that's interesting.
Leanne said, sorry, I'm late. Well, are you? Are you really? Didn't bother you at the time, did it? Doing whatever else you were doing, not hanging with us. Homer said, that's interesting, Rachel. When doing my family tree, I found a relative who lived in Temperance Hotel in London in the 1920s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I wonder if it was a change, the temperance hotels, maybe so that people went there and knew that there wouldn't be the demon drink.
Maybe.
I wonder if it had something
TL.
to do with that.
Bees, cats, and other animals get high. Seems more to it than just social. Cats, fucking catnip. I've still got scars on my hand from the work cat. You give him catnip, and he's just like. It's like Cocaine Bear, the film, but just in a cat.
Sorry, so let me just get this. TL says bees, cats, and other animals get high. Seems more to it than just social. No. So I don't. I didn't think that we were just saying it's a social thing. I think any animal, or actually seems all sorts of life, even plants. Anything that's good for us, we want more of. Anything that gives, so we feel it as a high, in the same way as animals, they eat, they feel the energy, then they want more of it or whatever. They like there's an experiment that they were doing into obesity, where so we don't have any inhibitors for the perfect mix of sugar and fat. So they gave cheesecakes. They had a control group.
Is this the rat? Or was it rats on mice?
The rat ones, yeah. I've sent you the pictures of it, haven't I?
I think we talked about this on here, actually.
So they fed the rats. They had two things. So they had cheese and whatever the rats preferred previous, and they had cheesecake, and the rats just kept going to the cheesecake. But where they used to eat the cheese, they'd get full and stop. With the cheesecake, they couldn't. They just kept eating because it gave them a high. They loved it, and they just kept.
Cheesecake.
And the size of these rats were inside. They were massive, weren't they?
Those biscuits you got me, those nice biscuits,
They're
they're
really
basically
nice,
the
aren't they?
equivalent of rats and cheesecake.
So yeah, again, just it's life, all life, just. Trips out just once. That I remember driving home during the late summer, driving home from gigs, and like the apples will be falling down just at the top of my road.
Oh, the fermented apples.
And they start to ferment, and the deer come out, like little muntjacs come out and eat them, and they'll just be.
All right. What are you doing at, you fucker? Started coming out trying to punch your car. Yeah. You think you're hard?
One time I had to get
you ran over Jeffrey the other week, you bastard. Look, there's still bits of him in the grill.
So normally with a deer they'll run a mile the minute that you get near them. This muntjac, Missy got out the car, got a blanket, and actually went round to it, put it round there, and then tried to push it to the side of the road, and it was like,
Yeah. I really like you. Where you been all my life?
Exactly.
No one understands me. I just got this vision of Missy sitting outside of her commiserating a pissed muntjac. I just didn't expect it to be like this. In my time of life, I had dreams.
I used to skip. So I think all life, it's because we are chemical animals. Those chemicals drive us to do these things again and again. Yeah.
Okay, so Leanne said, I enjoy having a drink, being tipsy, but I don't like being out of control. Homer said, yeah, if you're the only one dressed at a party. Then we had Leanne said, we talked about this 3 a.m. Sunday morning. Rob said, so when me and my friends would go out, the main part was about having fun and socialising. Being in a pub and drinking was just a byproduct of where 30 people could be in the same place and have a laugh. There was never really any trouble with us and always looked after each other. Yeah, I remember being in, sort of in the music scene back in the late 90s when we were in originals bands and, everyone was going out, they were having parties, and it was just everyone being silly. Hearts would get broken occasionally, glasses, houses would get trashed occasionally. But in most of the situation, it was just a social silliness.
Well, that's our job, is being in that, just being surrounded by people who they like music. And
with a background, with a soundtrack of drunkenness.
And they want to drink to kind of make the experience.
Because sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name. I find the Cow and Telescope's like that. I expect that when you go in there, because everyone knows each other, someone will walk in. Mark, can you just change your name to Norm so it can be like cheers? No, hey everybody, Norm. TL says, so do rats have a genetic disposition to get high, or just humans? Does
No.
any animal?
Every animal. As my understanding, as far as I know, I'm no expert, obviously. As far as I know, every animal has. They're driven by chemicals, and certain chemicals are reward chemicals, and that drives behaviour. So again, with sex is exactly the same thing. We mismarked there. That's like dolphins. They like getting high. They like pissing off some
Pufferfish. Or is it some fish pufferfish, I think, as it's releasing toxins that gets them high?
Yeah. So
Do they just go up to it and just go, twat?
certain, I can't remember what animal it is, but you know, like there's certain toads in the rainforest that have a venom on their back. And there's a certain animal that will go.
They'll lick it.
They'll lick it. They won't lick it enough that it kills them, but they'll lick it enough that they get a high from it. So yeah.
I have seen a monkey masturbate itself with a frog before. That's weird. You've never seen that, have you? This is how I know that human beings were related to chimps. Because believe me, like human beings, if they can find something that they can masturbate with, they will use it. And this this chimp picked up a frog. I think it was either a chimp or a gorilla. Picked it up and realised that if its mouth opened, it could go plop way, and it was having a whale of a time.
Not so much the frog.
No, the frog was just like, again, why did my... So Missy sees the frog at the side of the road, sitting there. How did my life come to this?
How did it all end like
Yeah.
this?
I had pride once upon a time in my life. And now I give blowjobs for...
I never gave consent.
No. It's like there was a... Oh, do you remember you get like the really shitty news rags, like Daily Star and all those kind of things? It was somebody... I used to be a multi-millionaire, now I suck off tramps for quavers, or something like that.
For quavers.
Hey, when you need a quaver, you need a quaver.
That's some headline. Isn't it?
Oh, isn't it just? All right, everyone, just realised what the time is. It is
Thank you so
10:15.
much for joining. It's really nice chatting with all of you.
Yes, it was nice to have a
Missed you
catch
last
up with everyone, and so we like to do this just now and then. Just everyone, just get involved, and it was a bit heavy to start with, but then I feel the mood kind of got lighter as we went on. But normally, me and Simon talk about all the really heavy stuff beforehand, but we haven't had a chance to the last few weeks. So
to get back to your original question, yeah, change.
some you can, some you can't. Hey ho, it's a come and a go. All right, everyone, what are you up to the weekend?
Got Saviours, I think, on the Friday. Sons of Southpaw on the Saturday, and Metalworks in Camden.
Sorry, I thought you were setting a beat there.
I've got some drum and bass on Sunday. What are you doing this weekend?
I'm at the Cow and Telescope on Saturday. Yay! So apparently it's 80s themed. Lucy, our PR for the Cow and Telescope, Miss Rattenbury, has said, can we do an 80s theme? Oh, if only we had some 80s clothing kicking about the house. So
Was
yes,
that like a dream come true?
pretty much, yeah. Matt was just like, yep, already got that covered. I might even see if I can dig out my blonde wig that's got the head strap. I don't know what state it's in. It's probably rotted by now. But we'll see what comes of that. So
You must take a picture and show us next week.
I shall do. All right, everyone. Lovely to see you all. You all take care of yourselves.
Yeah. Wait a minute. What do we have? I think Holmes said, I think that dolphins actually pass the pufferfishes around amongst the pod.
It's like a bong.
There's so many interesting things that dolphins do, and also killer whales as well, because they each pod teaches other pods.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
Thanks, guys. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you for joining in, and also all your input as well.
Yeah, thank you for all your inputs, everyone.
I look forward to seeing you, Lee. I haven't seen you in a while. Thank you, Sonna, as well, for joining in. Yes, Mike, I was told about that from Lucy. Is that Lucy?
Lucy,
Lovely Lucy.
the South End midriff, as I call her. The bear star.
Lovely Lucy.
No, bless. I think she hurt her back recently, and she's still been trying to recover from it. So poor girl, it's been really getting her down. So
Send her a very big hug from me.
All right, everyone, take care. Mwah.
Be kind. Thank you so much for joining in.
Bye bye now. Bye bye.